Well, hey, my friend. Welcome to Creatives on Fire, the go-to podcast for content creators looking to grow their audience as well as their income. I'm so excited you're here. I'm your host, Melanie Ferguson. Well, hey there. If you are looking to add income for your bottom line through selling in Instagram stories, I've created something just for you. It is my Selling in Stories on Instagram complete guide. In the guide, it's going to actually help you with all the technical side of stories, how to capitalize on story highlights, and how to increase your views and engagement. This is going to be your all-in-one guide to sell seamlessly in stories. It also includes a handy calendar template that you can use to make selling in stories super simple. Check it out today. I'll put a link in the show notes for you. Well, hey, welcome back to the podcast. Y'all, this week, I have a special guest, and it is Miss Sara McDaniel from Simply Southern Cottage. She is a return guest, and I'm super honored to have her here. Sara, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me back, Melanie.
You're so welcome. You are such a wealth of knowledge. And before we hit record, I was just explaining to you that there are a lot of experts out there on a lot of different topics, but I feel like when it comes to stories, I don't really know of anybody that has really put the flag in the ground, the stake in the ground and said, hey, that's what I'm going to be the expert in. And when I think of your successes, I think of every single day, how you show up day after day and are so successful with your stories. So let's do it. Let's talk about stories.
Great. Let's get into it.
So first of all, we all want to know, is there a secret formula? Is there a framework? What goes into it? How did you get started and what did you find out that worked? What's working now?
So, Melanie, I can just tell everybody about what works for me. And this has been my experience over the last 7 or 8 years on Instagram. I can't say that it's a silver bullet for every single person that might be listening, but I can tell you that what I do every single day on my page is working for me. And it's also something that we teach our girls in Pink Creatives, and we have seen them have success by replicating it.
Love it. All right. So where do we start?
Gosh, first of all, I will tell you that it is a lot of work and it is not for the faint of heart. And if you want to be successful on social media, you have to put in the time and the effort to build relationships with your audience. And so in a nutshell, what I do almost every single day, I don't do it every single day, but at least 4 to 5 days a week. I try to slow my roll a little bit on the weekend sometimes. But it really is as simple as I bring everybody along for my day-to-day and what is happening. Some days that content is planned out. Some days it's pre-recorded. And honestly, those are my very favorite days because I can just live my life, not on camera. But for the most part, what I am sharing every day in stories is real time what is happening in my life. And so whether it be one day I woke up and somebody had dumped a shopping cart in our creek by my villas. And so here I go, I set my camera up on a tripod and I'm digging this shopping cart out of our creek, or maybe it's doing make ready at my villas and getting ready for guests. It truly is what is happening day to day in my life as a real estate investor.
Love it. And so when you talked about scheduling some of them out, do you schedule some of the reels?
No, I don't do any scheduling. You're talking about stories or reels?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Stories.
That's okay. No, I don't schedule any of my stories out. It is real time. Now, I will pre-record things. And sometimes I'll wake up and I'll just load up all my pre-recorded stories and I'm done for the day. And that is my best advice for anybody. If you can make that happen, it makes me so happy the days everything is pre-recorded, but it's just not feasible because I really do bring you along for the real time what is happening, but I highly recommend it if you can do it.
So if you are just getting your feet wet with that, what does that look like? So you're filming it. Where are you putting it? Where are you saving it if you're not scheduling it?
Yeah. So I don't record in the stories app on Instagram. I record everything on my camera roll. I do edit some of the content. Like if I stutter, like I'm going to edit it out or I'm going to do it again. So I record everything directly to my camera roll and then I upload from my camera roll to Instagram.
Okay. So you'll have a whole day's worth sometimes ready to just push out. And then do you set like an alarm to remember when to put it out, or how do you know when to put it out?
Yeah, no, and that's another system if I've put in place, if you will. So typically every morning I post in feed like a reel or a carousel or a static post, usually around 7:30, sometime between 7 and 8. And then I usually start in stories by 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at the latest. And so I don't set an alarm. It's just ingrained in my day and in my business to start my story day around that time.
Okay. And so once you start that story and you're bringing us along with you, that reel or carousel that you shared down there earlier in the day at like 7, are you resharing that up to stories ever?
That is a great question. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. There's a lot of, I guess, feedback, if you will, about whether it's advantageous to repost it to stories or not. And so I don't know. I can't really tell a difference either way. So sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I don't know.
Okay. And then once you've started your day, what is the next piece of content that goes into stories?
Yeah. So typically I greet everybody in the morning. I just did it prior to us recording this and I kind of set the expectation of what you're going to see today. So for example, this morning I was like, good morning. This is a busy week. It's always a busy week with me. But today in particular, we have the exterior of Philip's cottage being prepped for painting. And so I told everybody, I'm headed over to Philip's cottage here shortly after I get out of some meetings, and you're going to see the paint prep being done. So I usually start and I set the expectations with what they're going to see. And then in between, like starting the day and seeing what is actually happening, I might be posting some affiliate content or a new blog post, an article maybe that I was featured in. So I try to sprinkle in opportunities for affiliate links or to earn additional income or to bring attention to my blog or my brand before I go into other content.
Okay, so let's talk about that filler content. Is that stuff that you have already mapped out and you have sort of in maybe like a folder on your albums, or where is that? Where are you pulling that so that it's handy every time you're ready to shove it in there?
Oh my goodness. I get asked this all the time. I am the worst at planning out content. So I'm going to go back and refer to today. So while I was getting ready this morning, setting the expectations for the day, I did have a sponsored story that I had to load for Promise Face Serum. I drink the Kool-Aid. I love it so much. And so I knew today that I had to post for Promise Serum, but I don't have sponsored content every single day, right? And so unfortunately, I have to tell your audience, like, I'm not a big planner in that aspect. And so typically when I choose my filler content, it's going to be a new blog post that I have out. I might be resharing an old blog post. I do get emails every day from, certain Amazon sellers, and they may have like my dress that I wear all the time on sale. Or there might be another product that is on deal that I love and use. And so I just look at what are the daily deals that are out right now, or what is something that I can reshare an affiliate link for as a piece of filler content.
Okay, and so that's understandable. So what do you have like a limit of the filler content? Like would you post one little slide between your introduction of the day and then your delivery on that expectation?
Yeah, that's also a great question. So, when I first started on Instagram, one of our friends, sadly, who is no longer on Instagram, but I learned so much from her. Her Instagram was Cotton Stem. So, I really watched and studied everything that she did to be a successful content creator. And one of the pieces of advice that she shared early on was that you should share 80% of your content that is like free for consuming. Like you're not expecting anybody to buy anything from you. you are just giving knowledge or information to your community. And then 20% of your content can be like paid sponsorship, pieces of content, affiliate links, etc. So I do try to stick to that rule. So basically, for every 10 slides that I post in stories, 2 of them might be opportunities to earn income, whether it's through sponsored content or through affiliate links.
And so would you say that all 10 are usually in one day or?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, yeah. So, and sometimes I may do only 5. I'm notorious for a very long story day. And there's a whole nother conversation we could have about the more stories you post, the less the viewership is, the less stories you post, the higher viewership. That's a whole nother conversation. But I typically have a long story day, and that tends to work for me. People want to see what's going on. They want to learn about the latest renovation tips. And in order to bring them along through that process, like I'm typically posting between like 9 and 6 every day, and then I usually stop around 6 or so.
Gotcha. In the daytime, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Correct.
Not number of slides. Okay. So, and honestly, that is the genius behind the stories is that you are growing a community and you're trying to serve them, not serve an algorithm.
That's right.
So hopefully they're trained to tune in whether the algorithm shows it to them or not as a
Yeah.
suggested story. So
Right. And I do, tell my people a lot of times how to turn on their story notifications. So if I post a new story, they can turn on that notification and get a pop up on their phone that, oh, Sarah just shared something new. And so I think a lot of them do have that turned on, and it alerts them when something new comes across that they might be interested in watching.
So I didn't know about that. Tell me how that works. And do you regularly share with them how to do that?
Yeah, usually once a month or so, I'll just tell everybody. So basically, you just go to your favorite content creators like profile page, and at the top there's a little bell, and you can tap that bell and you can turn on notifications like for stories, for reels, for posts, for lives, and then you'll get a notification either in app or on your phone depending on what your settings are turned on to when new content is posted.
I love that tip. That is so awesome. All right. So training them to tune in when they otherwise might not have found out that you were sharing. Okay. So we have gotten our expectations, our filler slide, and then we are starting to deliver on the expectations. What is sort of next? Is it another filler piece or what does that day look like at that point?
Yeah. So typically, in general, there's 3 to 5 main slides every day. So when we get off this call, I'm going to go over and I'm going to, film the guys working on the exterior of Phillips Cottage. We'll talk about, how they're using caulk to fill in gaps and they're pulling vines off the house, and then I'll stop. And then there might be another, affiliate piece of content. Maybe I'm going to share the type of kills that we're using, the primer that we're using on the house, and put an affiliate link to Home Depot for that. And then, I'll come back home, work, whatever, go do make ready at my cottage on fort. And then at the end of the day, I'll go over again and just kind of sum up like the progress that they made that day. And then I'll probably will include not an affiliate link, but a link where people can donate to our nonprofit and come alongside us in turning this home into a transitional house for women with children.
Okay. So you have given them 3 minimum of things that they can view and enjoy and learn, and you're educating them and entertaining them at the same time. And then you've gotten 2 to 3 different pieces of other content that is sort of related. How important is it that your affiliate promotional item is related to like your day?
For me, I don't think it's important. It needs to be organic for sure. You don't need to share something that is not organic for your page or your content. But, even though I might be talking about home renovation all day in my stories, I might have seen that my favorite white dress on Amazon is on deal for 50% off today. And so I'm going to throw a slide up, just like, oh, by the way, this is on sale today. Or, if my pots and pans are on flash deal on Walmart, I might throw that up. So I don't think it necessarily has to be related, to what you're sharing throughout the day, it can be. But if you see a deal that your audience wants to know about, share it organically.
And that's the beauty of stories. It can be
Right.
really anything, a mix
That's
of
right.
your favorite stuff. It's like talking to your next door neighbor, your best friend, whatever. I love that.
Right. And
So
another tip, just real quick, if I could just tag on to that, another tip that I learned early on is that you talk to the camera like you are talking to one person. I'm guilty. I'll say y'all, a lot of times. But when you are on stories, you want to look into your camera. Don't look at yourself recording, look into your camera. Use the word you and talk to your stories like you're talking to your best friend. And that goes a long way to build relationships with your audience.
I agree, and that tip is awesome. That tip is one to write down.
Yes.
So explain to people what do you mean by organic?
Yeah, just weaving it into your everyday life, right? Things that are normal and relatable to your page. So it would be organic for me to share home renovation tips, home decor tips, things that are specific about my life. I'm trying to think of something that would not be organic for me.
Is it something learned, like, does it come naturally, or is it something learned, like, you have to be like, "Oh, yeah, don't forget this needs to sound natural," or how do you
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you have to force something, it's not organic, right? If you are sharing a product that you haven't tried, that you haven't believed in, that is not normal for you, that is not organic. I get asked hundreds of times every day. I'll give you a perfect example. Before we get on this call, I got an email from a brand wanting me to share their sunglasses, but their sunglasses were hideous, hideous. So, I don't want them to pay me to share sunglasses that are hideous, right? So, that would not be organic for me. If their sunglasses were cute and I could weave it into my everyday life, absolutely, I'll share it, but they were not cute. Therefore, I said no to that opportunity.
love it? So stay true to who you are, and it will come across natural, organic, and it will actually create better results. I mean,
That's right.
obviously,
That's
you wanna keep your audience's trust, and that's how you'll do it, so I love that. So, on these things that you're sharing that are organic, that you stand behind, do you have a set number that you'll keep kind of consistently bringing up, or how do you decide how many you're gonna share at once? Do you lose track, or is it chaos? How do you do that?
Yeah. Gosh, again, like it's just all in my brain, right? I will say that I think it builds trust with your audience when they see you share the same thing over and over and over. Now, I don't like run it into the ground. But for example, for 3 years or longer, maybe even 4 years now, I have had a monthly partnership with Home Chef. And I love Home Chef. Like I drink the Kool-Aid. I love everything about it. And so I purposefully ordered a box to come this week. It arrived. It's on my porch right now because I just got home from Key West. I didn't want to have to go to the grocery store or buy a bunch of groceries. So I purposefully had a Home Chef box come. And I'm going to record that content today and hopefully post it tomorrow and, tell the story about I just got home from Key West, blah, blah, blah. And I think when people see me over and over and over sharing Home Chef, like they're like, she must really like that, right? Because it's not a one and done type of thing. So if there are things that I truly, truly love, I will share it over and over at least once a month, twice a month.
That was gonna be my question, how often? Once a
Yeah,
month or twice a month? And you'll create new assets for that. You're not gonna just create
correct.
this generic Home Chef promotion and pump that out every month.
Right. It's new every month. Sometimes I'll share, how I selected the menu choices that came. Other times I'll share, cooking a meal. I'll do an unboxing. So it's new every month, but it's always about Home Chef.
And so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What kind of an income are we looking at? So say one company, is that gonna be, something obviously based on the return is how often you'll want to share, but how what is the potential with sharing in stories versus
Yeah,
somewhere else?
that's a great question. And it honestly, it varies very much, right? And so a good rule of thumb, and I'm going to say this very lightly because I will flex on my rates sometimes, especially for brands that, have been good to me or products that I, really believe in. But a good rule of thumb is about $1 per story view. So if your story views are, $1,000 story views, then you should ask a brand for $1,000. Does that make sense?
Yes, and is that based on that first slide? Because I know it's always much stronger than the other ones.
Yes. So a lot of times brands will ask you for like your 14 or your 30-day story views, and they'll kind of look at it and give you an average. But typically that's the rate that I go in with. You may not always get it, right? But that's where I start. I'm a firm believer in starting high with these brands, right? And then we can negotiate from there. But a good rule of thumb for anybody that's listening is $1 per story view.
And then the other side of the coin where it's not a brand deal, but you're just sharing it for the affiliate income. Is that sustainable income or what does that look like?
It is. And that amount of income, it varies so widely, right? Because some brands have their own affiliate programs and they might pay 25% commission, and then you might be sharing something on Amazon and it's 2% commission, so it really varies greatly. But if you get into a rhythm, it can provide you with sustainable income.
I love that opportunity because it is a lot of work. Like you said at the very beginning, you have to be committed and ready to stick it out because it is a journey and you're taking your people along with you. And so I love that. Real quick, a technical question. What about the whole 24-hour rule where people are talking about letting your stories die down to absolutely zero for at least 24 hours a week?
I do it. So I do. And typically I do it on Sundays. I've really tried to slow my roll and take a break on Sundays. And so I started doing it yesterday and then shameless plug. Last night, a magazine editor posted a feature that just came out in Good Grit magazine and she shared a story and I wanted to reshare her story. And so I broke it last night. But it is true. If you let your stories expire, stay off stories for 24 hours, and then start the next day with a piece of screen heavy text with a call to action to respond to you and your messages, then your story views will go higher.
Tell me a little bit more about that because I've not heard of that. The screen heavy text and respond. Do you often encourage that as your call to action? Is your DMs or
Yeah, for sure. So for me, again, I don't know if this works for everybody, but for me, if I have people respond to me in my messages, my story views are higher, right? And so usually after I'm doing that 24-hour reset, then then I typically, see higher story views.
okay, perfect. So the screen heavy, the text overlay, what kind of information would you put on that?
Yeah, so a perfect example is I'm planning out some content, hopefully a reel coming out in the next couple weeks about like our favorite Amazon finds, right? And so this morning I started with text on screen and I just asked people like, what is something that either I've shared or that another influencer has shared that you've purchased from Amazon that you like, it is your ride or die. It is something that you wholeheartedly believe in. And so now I've got people responding to me in my messages, but I'm going to take that information and then hopefully create a reel in the next couple of weeks about that.
Okay, so two questions about that. When you are doing something like that, it's better for them to respond in the DMs versus a question box?
Yes, I find that. Yes, my story views are not as high if they respond in the question box, and I do use them ever so often. But if they respond to me in my DMs, then my views are higher.
Is there any other sticker or option that Instagram offers that you find super valuable?
Yeah, a lot of times I'll use the poll sticker, comment yes or no, or I'll do a multiple choice question. Sometimes like, what paint color do you like best or whatever, and then give them 3 or 4 options. So the more that you can utilize those engagement tactics, then the higher your story views will be. Instagram loves engagement, as we all know. So use those engagement tactics as best you can.
And do you automatically share those to your Facebook?
Yes. However, that feature is broken right now for me. I don't know why. And Instagram support is actually escalating that up to their engineer. So right now, I'm having to repost everything, repost myself over to Facebook, but it has worked beautifully up until 2 weeks ago. I don't know what's going on. They're working on it.
I have had that happen over the years
Yes.
multiple times. And it could
Okay.
be, for me, it was like up to like 6 months before it started working again. And then just all
Yeah.
of a sudden, it was
Yeah.
automatic. And so
Right. Right.
interesting. So on the topic of creating that question and creating a reel off it, is there any time that you would decide whether it's better served as a story or, oh, hey, this should be a reel and maybe I'll share it to stories?
Yeah. So again, for me, I keep saying that I know my reels tend to be more polished, right? They are fully edited, transitions, music, text on screen sometimes, and then stories are just real and raw and off the cuff. Like I do not edit stories other than if I stutter or, something like that, I'll edit that out, but they are literally like just off the cuff.
Okay, perfect. That's awesome. Well, I'm so excited to really decide if this is going to be another revenue stream for my business. And hopefully, some of the listeners will take some of these tips and add it to what they're doing as well. Sarah, tell us a little bit about this Pink Creatives. You dropped it at the beginning of the episode. I'd love to hear about your next retreat and kind of what's going on there.
Yeah, sure thing. So, Pink Creatives is a business retreat that my friend Chair Whimsy and I developed. And basically, in a nutshell, we bring about 24 women to Round Top, Texas, and we pull back the curtain on our businesses and we teach people how to grow and thrive their creative businesses. We tell you exactly how much money we're making, we tell you how we're making it, we tell you how we have been successful on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're going to actually go into AI this October and talk about how we are using AI to grow and thrive our businesses. So registration opens up April 1st and the retreat is in October and typically we sell out. And so if you are even interested in that and you want to, get on our wait list right now, the website is just pinkcreatives.com. You can get on our wait list and the minute registration opens, you can get the notification and you can sign up right away.
It is awesome. I will put a link, of course, in the show notes for everybody to check that out. And if you're not familiar with Wendy, she's amazing. I have an episode with her that I will link as well. And I just have to say, Sarah, you are always, as always, absolutely over the top, generous with your information, your time, and I super appreciate you being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Melanie.